Hey, Mariatas. So we back with women of the Bible, Gabrielle. Her character, generous, quick-witted, and wise. She is one of the Bible's great peacemakers. Her sorrow to have been mismatched in marriage to her first husband. Her joy that God used her to save lives, eventually making her the wife of David. Her story, lock-headed, numb-stump. Ooh, the words strike us both harshly and humorously. But any woman married to a man worthy of such labels would have little to laugh about. Abigail must have felt suffocated, having been paired with just such a husband. Her father may have thought the wealthy Nabal was a catch, little realizing the man's domineering attitude might one day endanger his daughter's well-being. But fools and ruin often keeps close company, as Gabrielle soon discovered. For some time, Gabriel has been hearing of David, his encounter with Goliath, his rebel good looks, his proud, his prowls and battles, his rift with the king Saul. Recently, he had become her near neighbor in the desert of Maon, west of the Dead Sea, where he had taken refuge from Saul. Since David had arrived with his 600 men, he kept clear of her husband's livestock and Nabal's flocks prospers as a result. But when David sent 10 of his men to ask Nabal for provision, Nabal, who had grown richer by the day, thanks to David, nearly spit in their faces. Who is this David? Who is this David? Many servants are breaking away from their masters these days. Why should I take my bread and water and the meat I had slaughtered for my shearers and give it to men coming from who knows where? Rich though he was, Nabal had just foolishly insulted the region's most powerful man. Aware of their danger, one of the servants ran quickly to Abigail, begging her to intervene. As Nabal's wife, she must have suffered his arrogance every day of her life, but this time his folly jeopardized the entire household. Wasting no time and without a word to her husband, she loaded a caravan of donkeys with gifts for David and his men. Freshly baked bread, skin of wine, red meat, and various delicious food, and took them to David's camp. As soon as she saw him, she fell to the ground at his feet, making one of the longest speeches by a woman recorded in the Bible. My Lord, she pleaded, let the blame be on me alone. May my Lord pay no attention to that wicked man Nabal. He is just like his name. His name is fool and folly goes with him. But as for me, your servant, I did not see the man my master sent. Please forgive your servant's offense, for the Lord will certainly make a lasting dynasty for my master, because he fights for the Lord battles. Let me let no wrongdoing be found in you as long as you live. Even though someone pursues you, your life will be held securely by the Lord your God. But the lives of your enemies he will hurl away as far as from the pocket of a sling. These last words, of course, reminded David of his success against Goliath, erasing his anger and battling, enabling his gracious reply. Praise to the Lord, the God of Israel, who has sent you today to meet me. May you be blessed for your good judgment and for keeping me from bloodshed this day and from avenging myself with my own hands. If you had not come quickly to meet me, not one male belonging to Nabal would have been left alive by daybreak. In addition to saving lives, Abigail's wisdom had spared David from sinning, reminding him their vengeance belongs only to God. After her encounter with David, Abigail went to the Carmel, where Nabal had been shearing his sheep and celebrating his good fortune. Once again, she found him playing food, obliviously to dangers. He was drunkenly presided over a festival banquet. Like a great king, She waited until morning when he was sober to tell him what had happened. As soon as neighbor heard the news, his heart fell. 10 days later, he was dead. Arrogance, greed, and selfishness has conspired to rob neighbor of any good sense he might once have possessed. Thinking himself a great man when he was only a small one, he lost everything. Abigail was Nabal's opposite, a woman whose humanity, faith, generosity, intelligence, and honesty made her wise. Rather than putting others at risk by an ungoverned son, her gracious words saved lives. Few husbands and wives were ever so ill suited to each other. When David heard the news of Nabal's death, he sent word to Abigail asking her to be his wife. This time it was Abigail's choice whether or not to marry. She accepted becoming David's third wife and eventually mother to his son, Khalid. Unlike Micah, who had been a mere pawn on a chessboard, Abigail was a woman who rose above her circumstances to change the course of events. Though scriptures doesn't offer details regarding her daily life, it is logical to suppose she was a good wife to Nabal. Even her entreaty to David was the act of a good wife. Perhaps her perhaps her virtues were not inborn but developed in the midst of a difficult marriage. Or perhaps her marriage was actually the catalyst for her character, helping her to cultivate contrasting virtues to Nabal's vices. Regardless, through her quick-wit actions, she spared her husband life and goods. It was God, not Abigail or David, who paid Nabal back for his arrogance and greed. And I'll be back with another reading of the Woman of the Bible. Bye, my reactors.